You are not bad at relationships. You are running a childhood playbook in an adult context. Every pattern you repeat, the testing, the panic when things are good, the exit plan you keep in your back pocket, the silence when you're hurt, was learned in a household where love was unpredictable and safety was temporary. Unstable childhood doesn't stay in childhood, it echoes. Into every relationship you enter, it replays the original lessons. Trust is dangerous, calm is suspicious, closeness is the prelude to loss, and you follow the playbook because the playbook kept you alive. It just wasn't designed for love. In this video, we trace 10 relationship patterns back to the childhood that installed them. For each one, then, what the instability taught you. Now, what you do in love because of it. 1. You test people before trusting them. Then, trust was broken without warning. The parent who was warm became cold. The promise that was made was forgotten. The safety that existed yesterday was gone today. The child learned, trust is a setup. If you give it freely, you'll be blindsided. Now, you create tests. Small ones. You cancel plans to see if they'll reschedule. You pull back to see if they'll pursue. You say something vulnerable and watch what they do with it. The tests aren't games. They're the nervous system screening process. Prove you won't do what they did. Prove it again and again. Because the original betrayal arrived without warning, so no amount of passing is ever quite enough. 2. You mistake intensity for intimacy. Then love was loud. It was dramatic. It came with highs that felt like flight and lows that felt like free fall. The household ran on adrenaline, and the child's nervous system calibrated to that frequency. Love equals activation. Now, when a relationship is calm, consistent, and emotionally steady, it doesn't feel like love. It feels like nothing. The absence of chaos registers as the absence of connection. And you find yourself drawn to the relationships that spike your nervous system. The ones with tension, with drama, with the constant uncertainty that your childhood taught you to call passion. You're not choosing badly. You're choosing the frequency your system was tuned to. And this creates a devastating pattern. The safe person feels boring. The chaotic person feels electric. And you leave the safe person for the electric one. Not because the electric one is better, but because the nervous system interprets their chaos as aliveness. Calm love requires rewiring a system that equates activation with connection. And that rewiring is one of the hardest things a person from an unstable childhood can do, not because they're broken, but because the wiring is deep and the frequency is the first language they learned. 3. You apologize during arguments to end them, not because you're wrong. Then, conflict in the household wasn't a conversation. It was a threat. The child who argued back was punished. The child who surrendered was spared. So the system learned, end the conflict, now, whatever it costs. Now you apologize mid-argument not because you've reflected and found yourself wrong, but because the argument itself feels like an emergency, and the apology is the fastest exit. You're not resolving the conflict. You're diffusing the bomb. And your partner receives an apology that looks like accountability, but is actually a survival strategy. The issue doesn't get resolved. It gets buried, and it resurfaces because buried things always do. 4. You keep an emotional exit plan. Then, nothing was permanent. The home could change. The parent could leave. The situation could shift overnight. The child learned to keep one foot near the door at all times, not because they wanted to leave, because leaving might become necessary without warning. Now, you are in a loving relationship, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you know exactly how you'd leave. The apartment you'd move to, the money you'd need, the friend you'd call. The plan isn't a sign of unhappiness, it's the childhood playbook. Always have an exit. Because the last time you didn't have one, you were trapped, and your partner doesn't know. They don't know that while they're planning next year's vacation, you're calculating how quickly you could dismantle this life if you needed to. It's not distrust of them. It's the childhood's insurance policy. Never be so invested that you can't walk away overnight. Because the original environment taught you that overnight is how fast things change. And the person who can't leave fast enough is the person who gets hurt the most. 5. You overshare early to test rejection. Then, vulnerability was punished eventually, not immediately. First it was received, then it was used. The child who shared something real learned. The rejection is coming. It's just a matter of when. Now, you front-load it. You share the darkest thing early. The trauma, the diagnosis, the worst version of yourself. Not because you lack boundaries, because you're running the rejection tests on fast forward. If they're going to leave, better now than after you've invested. The oversharing isn't intimacy. It's a screening tool disguised as openness. 6. You go silent when you're hurt. Then, expressing hurt was dangerous. The child who said, "That hurt me," was told they were too sensitive, dramatic, or making it up. The lesson: pain that is spoken becomes a weapon against you. Now, when your partner says something that cuts, you go quiet, not calm, quiet. The words are there, but the system will not release them because the original data says if you show where the wound is, they'll press harder. The silence isn't processing, it's protection. And your partner reads it as withdrawal, coldness, passive aggression, not knowing that behind the silence is a child who learned that the safest response to pain is no response at all. And the cost compounds. The partner stops asking. They interpret the silence as indifference. They pull away. And the pulling away confirms what the system predicted. See? Vulnerability leads to loss. The cycle completes itself. Not because the partner didn't care, because the silence communicated something it was never meant to. I don't want to talk about it. When the truth was, I don't know how to talk about it safely. 7. You become the caretaker in every relationship. Then, the child's value was determined by their usefulness. You were loved when you helped, tolerated when you performed, and invisible when you simply existed. Love was earned through labor, never given freely. Now, in every relationship, you become the fixer, the helper, the one who manages, anticipates, and smooths. Not because your partner asked for it, because the system believes, if I stop being useful, I become disposable. The caretaking isn't generosity. It's a contract the child wrote. I will take care of you if you promise not to leave. And the contract is unsigned by the other person who doesn't even know it exists. 8. You panic when things are good. Then, good was always the setup for bad. The calm night was followed by the explosion. The kind word was followed by the withdrawal. The child learned, don't trust the good. It's the intermission. Now, your relationship is stable. Your partner is consistent, and you are panicking. Not about anything specific, about the absence of crisis. The system scans. Something is wrong. This is too good. This can't last. And the panic isn't irrational. It's the most rational response to a childhood where good things were always followed by bad. The nervous system is performing a threat assessment. The threat it's assessing, happiness, and the specific behavior this produces, self-sabotage during the best moments. The relationship is going well, and you pick a fight. The vacation is perfect, and you find the flaw. The partner is present and loving, and you test them. Because the nervous system cannot distinguish between genuine happiness and the setup that preceded every childhood storm. And until the system collects enough data to learn that This happiness is not followed by a storm. It will keep sounding the alarm every time. 9, you choose unavailable people. Then, the parent who was supposed to be available wasn't. Physically present, but emotionally absent, or intermittently available. Warm one day, gone the next. The child's template for love became, love is something you chase, not something you receive. Now, you are drawn to people who are emotionally unavailable, the one who doesn't text back, the one who keeps you at arm's length, the one whose attention you have to earn. And when someone is fully available, consistent, present, there, it doesn't feel like love. It feels like something is missing. What's missing is the chase, and the chase is what the childhood template defined as love. And the cruelest version of this, when someone available finally arrives and stays, the system doesn't recognize them as a partner. It recognizes them as a puzzle that's already solved. There is no mystery, no longing, no distance to close. And without the distance, the nervous system doesn't feel the activation it was trained to call love. The available person is offering everything the child needed, and the adult can't receive it because receiving requires a receptor the childhood never built. 10. You confuse attachment with love, the deepest echo. Then, the bond with the parent was fear-based, not warmth-based. The child was attached because the child was dependent, and the attachment was reinforced not by safety, but by unpredictability. The come and go, the hot and cold, the intermittent reinforcement that created a bond stronger than consistency ever could. Now the intensity of anxiety in a relationship feels like the intensity of love. The knot in your stomach when they don't call feels like passion. The relief when they come back feels like joy. But it's not love. It's the nervous system replaying the original attachment pattern, the one where the bond was maintained not by feeling safe, but by feeling afraid of losing. And the most important thing to understand, you can learn to feel love without the anxiety, but the first time you do, it will feel quiet, almost boring, because your system has been conditioned to equate love with activation. And real love, the safe kind, is the quietest thing you'll ever feel, not because it's less, because it doesn't need to be loud to exist, and this is the gift that waits on the other side of the rewiring, the discovery that love can be a resting place, not a performance, not a chase, not an emergency. A place where you can put the playbook down and simply be present, not because the other person earned your trust through a series of tests, but because the nervous system, slowly through accumulated evidence, learned that safety doesn't always end, and the person standing in front of you is not the echo. They are the new thing, the quiet, boring, beautiful, new thing. 10 patterns. 10 ways an unstable childhood echoes in adult love. You're not bad at relationships. You're running a playbook that was written for survival, not for love. And every pattern, the testing, the intensity seeking, the exit plan, the panic, the silence, the caretaking, the unavailable people, the attachment as love, made sense in the original context. The playbook kept you alive. It just doesn't know you're safe now. The playbook can be updated, not by trying harder at relationships, by understanding what the old playbook is protecting you from, and by collecting new data. One safe relationship, one calm conversation, one moment of trust that doesn't get betrayed, until the system begins to believe that love can be quiet and still be real. If you're tracking these patterns in your own relationships, our Inner Lens Healing Tracker, exclusive for members, includes a relationship section for logging the echoes. What pattern fired, what childhood moment it connects to, and what actually happened this time. The data changes the playbook. Join using the join button below. At Inner Lens, we read the playbooks nobody told you were still running. If this one resonated, stay. There is more here, and the playbook can change.